Welcome to r/AskReddit by Reddit Replay. Do you prefer physical horror, blood, gore, etc., or psychological horror, mind games, etc.? Why? Psychological horror. It just feels more real. Plus I love a movie or game that makes you think. Psychological for me. Just the type of scary crap that sits in your head for a while. Is it too much to ask for both? I don't mind some physical horror, but I just can't bring myself to enjoy excessively gory movies. I definitely prefer psychological, but I'm even more a fan of paranormal horrors. I don't like gore. I can handle blood and limbs being severed and such, but when it comes to guts and brains explicitly, I can't watch it. I can't even look at roadkill. There's several movies that I would enjoy more without the extreme gore. So psychological for me, definitely. Comedic horror. I guess I acquired that taste from watching too many cheesy horror movies in the 80s and 90s. It needs a mixture. Psychological horror with no gory payoff is disappointing. Physical horror with no tension building to the act is tedious. Psychological because I like being mind-ducked. I'm dating myself, but the original Aliens was the best horror movie of all time, even though it's not as scary in this era. No one knew what the thing was and it just got bigger and scarier. It was a psychological thriller with a scary ass monster. Physical. I prefer slashers over the movies with any kind of paranormal stuff like ghosts and demons. The Conjuring is the main one I remember, but I know I'll keep avoiding Insidious and Sinister. I watch the slashers for the action and that thrill/on-edge feeling. Psych horror. This is of course increased for ghosts and demons. Usually terrifies me. I know some people enjoy the feeling of a good psychological horror movie, but I do not. Psychological. I'm too desensitized to gore, it doesn't faze me and all these slasher films are really lazy. For psychological horror it has to be done well. Sadly too many rely on cheap jump scares. Some examples of good psychological horror films. The Shining, Rosemary's Baby, What Lies Beneath, Funny Games. I would have to say body horror would be my favorite. The mangling of the human form has always been the most unsettling to me. Necromorphs from Dead Space are a perfect example. All true horror is psychological. The effect of the film with its superficial artifices is to reach the deepest hidden fears of the psyche and unconsciousness. Take for example the zombie. Fears that the society around you on which you fully rely will try to kill you. That you will become mindless in a mob of death and destruction. A dim awareness that society is already like this. The werewolf. That man's uncontrollable urges will overcome him. Again, it's about reflection of the self, introspection. Demonic possession. Insanity. Alien creatures. What about pure gore? Texas Chainsaw-like faceless killers. This is the unnamed fear, the fear without a name or a face. The unknown. A manifestation of the existential struggle we experience when met with unfair mortality, the feeling of futility. In its heart, horror is close to comedy in a sense that it allows showing and sharing parts of people and society that are otherwise difficult or even impossible to discuss. But rather than to show us ourselves, by letting us laugh at ourselves, it does so through showing us what we are afraid of. Psychological. There are things worse than death. Psychological horror. because I find it more interesting, and I'm not good when it comes up seeing lots of blood. Also, I like mind games as I get to think what I'd do. Psychological horror. Watch the movie The Deer Hunter. It will make you cry. Psychological for sure. Physical horror on film is okay, it just doesn't affect me much either way. Jump scares affect me, but not pleasantly. Psychological horror is the only thing that produces that scared in a fun way feeling for me. Psych. Blood and gore are fine and all, but I'm usually bored after the first 10 minutes of screaming and gallons of fake blood. The best horror move is duck with your head on a deeper level than oh golly no. The dumb white girl got beheaded yet again. And no, the Saw series doesn't count. Frequently suggested psychological thriller horror for some reason. At all. I was just annoyed by the end of the first one, and I fell asleep in the second one. Imago with neither. I like to be happy. Physical always. I'm an omega level pussy when it comes to psychological horror. I'm on edge after watching a horror movie for a few days, and I can't even read anything horror related without freaking out a bit. Gore can be initially shocking, but it's just that for me, an initial shock, and then get on with it. Psychological lingers for far too long. I'm a grown-ass man and I refuse to watch physical horror. I got enough real gruesome crap that I've seen stuck in my head. I don't need to add to it for backward fun. Whereas psychological really kind of lets you decide how scared you wanna get, or what you want to imagine. The last movie I saw before quarantine was The Invisible Man, and it was absolutely amazing. Psychological. It's not always the case, but psychological horror is just more interesting than physical, to me. I want it to linger while I'm laying in the dark later. Guess it's sort of ducked up that we are all desensitized, but physical stuff is boring at this point. Only so many ways to fake kill someone. I don't know if it's me, but I love watching people's sanity deteriorate. It gives me some weird sense of pleasure for some reason. Psychological horror is the genre that keeps on giving. If I'm truly unnerved by a game/movie in a psychological way, my mind continues to invent more similar threats long after the story is over. Psychological horror because the scary atmosphere is really frightening, while blood and gore and jump scares are cheap and overdone. Physical horror. I like to hear my victims scream for mercy before I chop their heads off with a meat cleaver. Psychological horror. If they succeed to insert few actually good jumpscares and some scenes that stay in your mind for a while, I'm fully into it. I know Scream in Netflix has both, and I love the series. Blood, gore, mind games, jumpscares and actually good storyline. While I can handle gore more than psychological horror, sometimes gore horror makes me angry because the reason they're in that gory situation is because they're stupid. Physical horror because I want to be able to sleep or shower afterwards without being scared. The lingering oh crap from psychological or supernatural stuff is too much for me, but you can kill a monster and move on. Thanks for watching. If you are new to the channel, subscribe for your daily dose of Reddit. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check out another video. And have an awesome day, you wonderful people.